Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I'd like to continue talking about the importance of nasal breathing and to continue talking about the book that I recently bought called The Breath by James Nestor. And so I mentioned last time about how he was doing an experiment where he had literally plugged his nose so he can only breathe through his mouth, and had the effects that it caused him, such as a rise in blood pressure, his nasal getting congested, his airways getting tighter, increasing incidence of snoring and sleep apnea events. And then when he took it off, he felt so much better again. He was able to smell, his blood pressure dropped, and the events of sleep apnea and snoring have reduced as well. And he was able to breathe a lot better. So now when he kept doing this experiment, when he was continuing to mouth breathe, it was only getting worse. And in fact, he had to put cotton swabs in his nostrils to prevent the mess or buildup from spilling on the floor. It was this congested, and that's only mouth breathing after one day. And I'm sorry, I don't think I mentioned about how he removed it, so I'll talk about it here. He then removed the plugs, rinsed his nose, and only did the breathing through the nose now, and was relieved because he was able to smell again. And in the book he writes, it's the most intimate connection to our environment, referring to the nose, because it allows us to really interact with our environment through smells. And it talks about giving and receiving, and how it's just so important to have that extra sense of smell. So in addition, of course, to the importance in breathing, the nose also allows us to smell, and it connects us to our environment. So why breathe via the nose? Well, healing powers of the nose were documented since ancient times, like in the Genesis, in a Taoist text saying it's the heavenly door, right, to the body. So it's very important, right? Or saying it's the heavenly door to the soul, right? So the nose is this important. And what it does is it filters, humidifies, and moistens air. So essentially what it does is it filters the air so that you don't inhale air that's dirty. It's like, would you rather drink distilled water or pond water where maybe there's frogs and whatever, right? It's the same thing as drinking clean water. You want to inhale clean air, so it filters the air. It also humidifies it and moistens it, so it actually increases the temperature of the air, so it conditions it so that when it comes to the lungs, it doesn't irritate the lungs because the air is so cold and dry. So it makes it more moistened and hot, so priming it or conditioning it to make it a bit easier on the lungs, right? So it doesn't cause irritation. So to make it more cozy and more comfortable as it reaches the lungs. Other features, it lowers blood pressure, eases digestion, and even regulates heart rate. And this is really cool. And the thing I'm about to mention now, you guys probably didn't know before. The filtration, humidification, and moistening, you probably did know. But this is what our nose does. The hairs in our nose can open and close based on the time, mood, and mental state. And there's many beliefs to how this works. The Tantric text in 1300 years ago predicts that the right nostril greets the sun and the left greets the moon. And this phenomena, called the shiva swarodaya, was shown anecdotally to be true by an Indian surgeon in 2004, Bhavanani. So he's showing this to be true, where the right nostril greets the sun and the left one greets the moon. Then in 1895, Richard Kaiser showed this other phenomenon. So this is another prediction, and this phenomenon is called the nasal cycling. And this means that the nostrils literally reopen. So the right is open, then the left, and they cycle every 30 minutes to 4 hours. And he thought it was not the moon that's that's influencing this cycling, like was previous thought in the Tantric texts 1300 years ago. But what he thought, it's more so due to our sexual urges, and he states that the nose is more like our genitals, and that these sexual thoughts or arousal actually can lead to nasal erections. So our nose can undergo erections just like other organs, which then this can cause difficulties in breathing, sneezing, and again becoming and having difficulty breathing. And then when their nose becomes more flaccid, again we can breathe again. It makes breathing easier. So in this way, our nose acts as an erectile tissue. But why does all this happen? Well, why do we get this nasal cycling in the first place? Whether it's caused by greeting the sun or the moon, or whether it's caused by sexual urges. Why do we even get it? Well, there's many theories as to how this happens. Maybe if we sleep on the side opposite to the pillow, it makes breathing easier on the nostril opposite to the pillow. Or maybe it protects us against infections and allergies. Or maybe it improves our sense of smell, so we can smell more, right? The odor and all that. But later it was shown that infections or disease actually cause the cycling to occur faster. So we said it happens every 30 minutes to 4 hours. Well, it can happen even faster if we get sick or if we catch some disease. So this is interesting. There's many theories to how why nasal cycling occurs, and it definitely occurs faster when we're getting sick and infected. Now what is known, so all of the previous one is predictions, but what is known is that the right nostril is actually like a gas pedal. So it speeds up our circulation and causes the fight or flight response. It's responsible for things like logic, language, and computing, because when you breathe through the right nostril, it activates the left side of the brain, is what we think. So, and the left side of the brain is responsible for logic, language, and computing. Breathing to the right side is good after meals because it speeds up digestion, increases temperature, and has those effects. It allows the fire of digestion, so it's good after a meal. Whereas the left nostril is like the brake. So the right was the gas pedal and the left is the brake. It's more of the rest and digest system. It's responsible for the parasympathetic nervous system, for relaxation. And the left nostril, because it activates the right side of the brain, it's responsible for creativity and abstract thinking. So breathing through the left nostril is good anytime you want to relax, as this nostril reduces stress, blood pressure, and temperature. So it has opposite effects to the right nostril. And a 2015 study actually showed that schizophrenic women had higher left nostril dominance, which caused more imagination, that creativity, right? And therefore that it led to their hallucinations. So breathing through the nose is good because it actually helps these hairs in the nasal erectile tissue act to their own accord, which is beneficial for health, as they regulate so many things, as we just saw, right? Of course, it regulates even our mental state, and a lot of other things. So clearly, it's for this cycling to occur properly, right? We need to breathe through the nose. It allows the cycling or this pulsing to occur naturally. Okay. And this is, I think this is really, really cool. We still don't know exactly why this nasal cycling occurs. There's some predictions, but we definitely want a balance between the left and the right nostril. And that's why alternate nasal breathing exercises and like pranayama allows this balance between the mind and the body. But anyways, going back to the experiment, after breathing via the nose, the author's systolic blood pressure dropped from 142 to 124. So remember, it went up by 13 points before, but now it went down. His HRV went up to 150, and carbon dioxide levels decreased 30%, which is good because you don't want, as you guys probably remember me talking about Patrick McCallum's book, you don't want the CO2 levels to drop too low. You don't want to exhale all of it because that leads to breathlessness and more difficulty breathing. So you want to maintain that CO2 level, and nasal breathing allows you to do that. It allows you to get more of a hypercampic response than a hyperoxic response, which can lead to dizziness and numbness in the fingers and all that. So you definitely want to maintain your CO2 levels, and that's what nasal breathing helps you to do. And the pulsing nasal cycling are only one aspect of the nose's vital functions. So we mentioned if we breathe through the nose, it allows the cycling to occur to its own accord, which is beneficial for health. But of course, we mentioned it, they also filter the air, and there's these structures, these coil-like shell structures called the turbinates with mucus in there, and they help filter the air. And there's these cilia which move a different speed depending on how close they are to the nasal openings, and they help via coordinated waves. They help propel away the dust into the, or particles or debris or whatever, into the stomach for elimination, right? So they help you clear away the waste. So it's like breathing through breathing the air from distilled water, or breathing air from a pond, right? So it helps you breathe cleaner air. And they also heat the air, so they condition the lungs so they don't get irritated, so they can better extract all that oxygen. Now, this was known before, the benefits of nasal breathing, not only in ancient texts, right? This was known before as well. In fact, Western people only considered nasal breathing recently, when George Catlin went to his journey in the Great Plains in Missouri, where he saw many, many tribes, in fact, around 500 tribes, but specifically focused on a tribe called the Mandan tribe. But it's not important because all the tribes had the same features. They had these superhuman characteristics where they were very tall, T4 straight, and they never got sick. And it turns out that they were actually nasal breathing and had no deformities, no deformed faces, and no disease at all. The mothers would literally close the baby's lips with each feeding and made it difficult to breathe via the mouth. They even put them on a board lying on their back and did other things so that they only were able to breathe via the nose. And below they got these superhuman characteristics. And then Catlin then moved to the west to live with indigenous people in Andes, Argentina, and Brazil, and they found the exact same conclusion. In 1862, she actually published a book, and this book was published in 1862, and she herself had problems with respiration and actually was able to eliminate them, and she didn't feel any more aches and pains to simply doing nasal breathing. And the author too felt much better as well as a result of nasal breathing. In fact, a common theme in what these tribes believed is that nasal breathing zaps you of your strength. So that's why they had bear-like chest. They stood very tall and they're very, very strong as well. They're physically built. And Dr. Burhin showed that mouth breathing leads to other bad things, like, and he's a dentist, to periodontal disease, bad breath, or halitosis, I think, and cavities, and contributes to even snoring and apnea. And he told the author about the benefits of nitric oxide of nasal breathing and how it improves oxygenation by around 20%, around 18 to 20%. You get benefit of oxygenation by improving nitric oxide. And we'll talk about other ways how you can improve nitric oxide levels previously, right? Specifically by nasal breathing, but also by moderate exercise and having a diet, like beetroot juice is a good one. And then also the author then saw Dr. Kearney at the University of Stanford, and she recommended the author to engage in a practice called mouth taping at night, where you shut your mouth at night, and this helps the nasal cavities to open. And the author actually used this tape and went from snoring from 4 hours to 10 minutes, And sleep apnea events decreased from 2,000, so 24, to 0. So it really, really helped him. And he didn't get any hallucinations, no ruminations like he had before, no urges to go to the bathroom. And Olsen, his partner, got similar results after mouth taping. So it's pretty cool. In fact, Catlin's Breath of Life book that she published in 1867 says the following: "And if I were to endeavor to bequeath to posterity the most important motto which human language can convey, it would be in 3 words: shut your mouth."